Tommy Robinson just exposed the truth the British government won't touch. Islamist extremism is rising, anti-Semitism is boiling over, and entire cities in the UK are shifting under your feet. If you're Jewish, pro-Israel, or just Western, what he says next should terrify you.
What is it that has changed over the last few years in the UK? Say from the beginning of your activism in 2009, the establishment of the EDL, up to now.
What's changed,
Tommy?
What's changed? I was born in Luton in 1982. When I was born, there was one mosque. There's now 45. Yeah? When I talked about issues I saw, yeah? Now the country's seen those issues. So when I started talking about them in 2009, these problems of mass migration, the problems of Islamisation of our country, the general public hadn't recognised it the way I'd recognised it. But Luton is a blueprint for every town and city. Now people have watched, they've seen what's happening, and they can see it themselves. And the perception's changed because people see that when you say most hated man in Britain, the media have called me that for years, yeah?
Sure.
But most places I go, I get love. I get loved by the public. So it's always this perception, and they've been very successful because they've tried to make me a leper. They've tried to make me toxic because I talk about issues that expose their failures. They have failed with mass migration. They failed with integration. They've failed with assimilation. They have, when I say they, I mean the entire British Parliament, have pandered and cowered in the face of ideologies that wish to destroy this nation. They got on their knees for the Marxists of Black Lives Matter. They cower in fear in the face of Islam. They dare not even speak about it. The cowardice shown, the destruction of this nation and where we're at currently now in Great Britain is because of their cowardice. Yeah? And right now, the British public are awakening in a massive way, not just the British public. If you look at the voting patterns across Europe, remember when I started my activism, when we first met, and I started my activism, I think the Swedish Democrat Party were on 1.5%. They're now on 22 to 24%. Gert Wilders is now winning the election in the Netherlands. Yeah.
These are huge shifts that are happening, which is encouraging that the Europeans are waking up to what's going on around them. We're really hoping it's not too late.
Yeah, he was banned from even entering this country. Yeah,
sure.
He was seen as an extremist. He was seen as a leper, like I was. Yeah, everything he said was true. The warnings he gave, he tried to give a voice to the Dutch people about putting them first, about the dangers that can come, especially since October 7th. The whole world has seen the radicalisation, the hatred on the streets of every Western nation. Coming out of the universities, look, the best universities in the world are now full of people calling for the gas of the Jews. It's insanity.
Yeah.
It's a level of insanity it's awakened the world, and essentially the people who have lied the whole way through this, which is all of them, which is the mainstream media, their trust has gone, the monopoly they had has gone. They can tell people I'm a figure of hate. They can tell people I'm an extremist. The public don't buy it anymore. Yeah, they do not buy it. Obviously, I was censored. They censored me for a reason, so people don't get to hear what I say. They get to tell people who I am. Well, thanks to Elon Musk for restoring my free speech, because they were given a 6-year reign of lying to the public about me, and now I've been given my voice back over the last 6 months, and the British public have listened to who I am again.
Have you changed your views on anything? Is there anything where you've where your views have evolved, or your views have changed, or you thought actually maybe I wasn't radical enough on this, or like I'd underestimated something or overestimated something?
I think if you dig up the first leaflet I ever made, which was in 2004 when I was 20, was it 20? And everything I say, I use it in my Oxford Union speech. Every word I say in that is exactly to the word that I say today. I've never changed. Yeah? What I said in that is that individual Muslims are not a problem. Extremists, radical jihadists are a problem. I said that whites and blacks are being religiously and racially targeted in the town of Luton. The Islamic community are given free reign. I talked about two-tier policing. Now the whole country talks about the two-tier policing. I spoke about Islamic jihad before people even knew what jihad was.
Yeah.
But only because I'm a product of the environment. I've grown up in Luton, where Al Mujahideen, who were only prescribed in 2013 or 14, they are 60% of the Muslims in British prisons for terrorism, are ex-members of that group. I went to school with them. Yeah? Their head office, Omar Bakri and Abu Hamza's head office, was in my town. Yeah, my town. So I grew up learning, had to learn who these groups were, had to understand the hatred, the venom, where it comes from, had to understand what was happening, the change in my town, the loss of freedom, the two-tier policing, the two-tier funding, the way the Islamic community becomes so powerful that as white English working class, we become irrelevant. They vote like a military fashion. Yeah, block voting. The whole country's now seeing it.
We're seeing it because we've seen it with sectarian voting in a number of North England towns.
George Galloway.
Sure. And if there's a few other examples, I mean, there's an incredible poster in the East Midlands by Ahmed Yaqub saying, "Lend your voice to Gaza." That's literally his electoral program. And behind him is a dilapidated post-industrial warehouse building type where you can see the dilapidation of that town, but that guy's program is "Lend your voice to Gaza" rather than "Let's restore this town to its former glory."
Rochdale, where George Galloway was elected, Rochdale had the biggest grooming scandal in our country, one of the biggest one in our country's history, of Muslim gangs raping hundreds, if not thousands, of young English girls. The election wasn't even mentioned. Yeah, everyone was talking about Gaza. Yeah, well, I'm being funny. This is about Britain and about putting British problems in our towns and cities. And whether I take satisfaction from it, you see all these people in here who have called us Islamophobic, who have shouted us down. They're now going to see the sectarianism. They're now going to understand it, because the people who are getting into politics now are Islamists, are pro-Hamas. Yeah, people are going to be sitting in this building are pro-Hamas. Not that they're not already, because many on the left already are. Yeah, pro-Hamas, but we're not talking about supporters of terrorism, supporters of jihad, hatred to Jews. When we talk about even what we've witnessed, and people always want to shy away from getting to the root cause of the problem. What is the problem? Is it to do with Israel? Is it to do with land? I think Hitler's book Mein Kampf has 7% Jew hatred. The Quran has 11%. Let's not pretend it's to do with land, yeah? It's nothing to, let's not pretend the reason why these people hate the Jews, the reason why they're in every town and city across the West, calling for the death, the destruction of the only Jewish state. If we hear about Palestinians needing a state, they've got a state. 60% of Jordan's Palestinian. You've got a state. There's 21 Arab states, yeah? What you're calling for is not another Palestinian state. What you're calling for is the destruction of the only Jewish state.
He's nailing this on the head and calling out this truth, and that is that they are not trying to get a state. They're trying to destroy the Jews. Read the Quran and you can actually see that.
The only Jewish state, yeah? You've got 55 Islamic countries. How come none of them are taking them in? We've got these politicians wanting to import all the Gazans into Great Britain, to put us at risk, to put us at more danger. Even if you just look at the statistics of the way they think in these regions, they're pro-Hamas. So what you're saying is the majority of them are pro-Hamas. You want to import people who are pro-Hamas into Great Britain. We've already got an out-of-control jihadist ideology controlling this capital city. They've had free reign. The police have not policed them. They've not clamped down on them. They've clamped down on the people talking about them. Enoch Powell said it. They don't deal with the problem. They deal with the people talking about the problem. I'm easy to deal with. Stefan,
all we need to shut up Tommy Robinson is for the Islamists to be deported. And Tommy Robinson essentially shuts up, right? Is that the conclusion?
If people don't like me, these lot don't like me, you created us. Your weakness, your cowardice to tackle the problem, as you've allowed jihadism and that ideology to grow into such a power in this country. Yeah? The demographical change, we currently have 40,000 British Muslims on the terror watch list. 40,000 now. Yeah? As the demographic continues to grow, I looked at Manchester. Every 10 years in Manchester, the Muslim population doubles. Yeah? It doubles every 10 years. So it went from 25,000 to 50,000, 50,000 to 100,000. 100,000 is going to be 200,000. There's only 500,000 people there. You're a generation away from losing our country. That's what we are. Yeah? And everyone wants to sit back and watch it happen. I had this discussion with a Muslim yesterday. I said, I'm sorry, you're not going to intimidate us into silence. Yeah? This is, and we shouldn't be ashamed to say it, this is our country. It's our capital city. You've been invited in as guests, and you're absolutely taking liberties. You're taking liberties in towns and cities across our country. There already should have been a revolution in this country over the rape and prostitution, torture and murder of our daughters in every town and city. Not just the fact that the Islamic gangs done it, but the fact that they knew about it. The fact that the police forces knew about it.
It was covered up.
They all let it happen. And they say it out loud. They let a generation of our daughters be kidnapped and raped, and they did not care. We are seen by them as cattle, yeah? And they do not fear us. And when we fear them, that's tyranny. And when they fear us, that's democracy, yeah? And we need to, I said, we've sat back, we need to get organised.
This was a great line you just said. When we fear the media, right, that's tyranny. When the media fears us, that's democracy.
We need to unite this nation. All we're hearing about is the Muslim vote, the Muslim vote. Well, the Muslims make up 7% of the UK, yeah? We are a majority. We have had enough of mass immigration. No one's asked us, did we want 1 million people imported last year? No one asked us if we want to continually go into war. No one asked us. That's not democracy. No one's asking us the key decisions. Yeah? The key decisions that are affecting us all. They want to walk us into World War III now. And there's so much that's gone wrong from COVID, from the vaccines, from these traitors, from the liars, from every point of it that the British public have watched. And if one thing, I had so many people who said to me, It was COVID, the lockdowns, the lies by Big Pharma, by politicians, that made me think differently about you. Because and I always say, if they lied to us about Iraq, David Kelly was killed. He said 2 days before, I'll be found dead in a field, and he was found dead in a field. They lied to us about Iraq. They lied to us in Syria. We were funding ISIS. America and Great Britain were funding ISIS. Yeah, they've lied to us about every conflict. They've lied to the country about me. They've purposely distorted who I am and what I represent. I'm not saying I want to get rid of every Muslim from the UK. Yeah? I've grown up in Newtown. Some of the best people I've met growing up are Muslim. Yeah? That doesn't stop me from saying Islam and the encroachment of Sharia and the spread. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, do you know who's funding everything in this country? Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Iran. How have they got bases in our capital city? These fascist ideologies, the abuse of human rights in all these countries, they own half the capital city. Our country are pandering to them. Our politicians are pandering to them. They've bought our capital city. They've bought our politicians through their money. And the British public are fed up of it. So I just, and unfortunately, due to censorship, due to all these issues, everyone's scared to say it. And they should be scared to say it, because we live in a totalitarian state. You lose a job, you get depersoned. They incite people against you and violence against you. We have well-funded far-left organisations whose job it is to track down anyone that speaks out.
Sure.
That's not freedom. We don't have freedom and democracy in this country. Trust me.
Very, very powerful. This is a man who has tremendous courage to speak out so boldly and has been doing so for so many years. And while not all of us have a platform like he does, or have the means and the ways or the talents that he has to argue the way he does, all of us need to be willing to voice the truth and what is moral whenever we have that opportunity, whenever we're in conversation. The more people who do not shy away from saying the truth prevent tyranny from taking over in so many of the democratic societies. And that's a responsibility that every single one of us has.